As promised, it's a small break because I want your knowledge, guys, about picking bands. I want to start about Kevo Serafin and giving Silas, Fury Silas. So when you look at Fury, you actually look at him as Silas as well. So these are two question marks I have for you guys. I want to understand why putting Kevo and Serafin was a good idea, or what can you expect for the second game?
Right. So before in pre-show rather, we
Uh-huh.
said, Kevo is this mechanical god, right?
Yes.
I kept watching that game and I kept mixing up who was on Lucian because I expected Kevo to be on something like Lucian, right? I don't think the angle for this series is putting Kevo on Seraphine. He's your best performing member. Maybe in scrims he's not so much, but in the tournament he is, right? The same thing with Fury Silas. I expected Silas to be banned. In my notes, I prepped, what are the ideal bans for Riddle? You ban that Silas because Fury is winning every game regardless of matchup on Silas and lane phase. In this game, he was up CS at like 41 CS to 35 versus an Action. That doesn't sound legal to me. So just ban it, please.
Yeah,
So
there's
even
a
if it's a
lot to
comfort
dive in
pick,
there.
it doesn't work there. So tell me more about it, Naimera.
Yeah, because there is a lot to be said about that comfort
Yeah.
break, because that's what we were talking about that when it came to that action pick, which is effectively that you've got a Renekton and an action, two of the heaviest lane bullies you can get in early levels, and that is precisely to get your Hecarim ahead. But they're not necessarily self-sustainable. Not in those matchups. Not against a Silas Jarvan. That is, maybe it's only worse. You've got like a Silas Vi, which is like point and click, and you're just gone at that point. But if you don't have Flash, we saw multiple times in the last game, the action couldn't function. You got to do one or two things. More self-sufficient matchups, and that is very versatile depending on what kind of champions you're playing into, or you play combos on the top side, which isn't just about the team fights. I mean, you can play through early game. That Hecarim is not helping you early game, and we saw that become into huge problems. It couldn't bail out the mid ganks, couldn't dive top side, which is something that Aragon was talking about an awful lot in the green room as well, because if you can't dive the top side, why are you lane bullying a Fiora? They just get to collect that wave at tower, they get to scale up anyway. So for me, if you're going to do that, at least make it easier to play through that top side, because you're not doing that to your bot lane either. It's just a very incoherent draft from Riddle.
This is why I said before we start, this is a really poor stylistic matchup for the side of Riddle. I don't think Stefan can play much, which can influence. The only pick, which I really hope they go back to, is Belveth. Belveth has really good diving. Like with her E, she gets a lot of damage reduction, and her dive potential is there. So I really hope they go back to this. I think that's the band-aid I want to see.
One thing I'll say is maybe Udyr goes unbanned for a game. Maybe we'll get to see Stefan's Udyr again. That's one thing. And also remember right at the very beginning of summer as well, you played a lot of stuff like Xin Zhao and Lee Sin, actually. And there was a little bit of Viego in there too. Now I know those champions are not in the same state they were at the start of summer, but he's not anathema to that style of play. I think if you are going to play through this kind of solo laney kind of top-sided draft, though, you need Stefan to be on a different pick. Something's got to move either way.
So I would like to highlight that Riddle are now on the blue side in terms of picks on a pick and ban. Is there any champion coming in from Bifrost, aside from the Silas, that you guys think it's bannable, or it's just default from them? It's not even worth it. It's more about the way Riddle drafted than the way Bifrost drafted.
Well, so I think they're in a bit of a conundrum here, right? Because they want to get some counter picks in there, particularly for the solo laners. But so what we've actually heard is that Riddle didn't choose a side in time, so they defaulted to blue side. So I actually don't know what was happening in their own thought processes at this point. Because if you're on blue side, maybe you have to first pick a Lucian, maybe you have to first pick Silas, maybe you have to first pick something like that. But it is not an easy task. And if I were to read into that, I'd imagine it's giving them a lot of things to think about if it's starting to perturb them like that.
Okay, Aragon, are you expecting anything different on his champion select since the sides are going to be swapped?
I think, look, I think both of these teams are fairly standard, right? Aside from the mid lane of Faison, I think we're just going to see default bans, stuff like the Sedge, Maokai, Aatrox, stuff like this on both sides. I don't think much is going to change, except for hopefully Silas.
Okay, the pick and ban is going to go live right now, and the bans are coming in hot. Azir, Aatrox, Yumi, Lucian is also gone, which leaves other picks available. One interesting pick we didn't see is the Caitlyn. It has a lot of attention during the Aurora Open, but I don't think on the previous game it was banned, was she?
Yeah.
Not in the first round.
Last ban for Bifrost should be Graves here, I think. I think Graves for Stefan sounds like it just fits him perfectly. He loves that power farming angle. I think Graves is really broken, right? Just personally, so yeah, I'm looking for a Graves first pick here.
He is also a big Udyr player, though. That was banned in that last one. So I'm wondering, actually at this point, Stefan could be a bit more of a win condition. So that Graves is gone.
Udyr,
you have a very valuable first pick to spend on too many things. That is always going to be the problem of blue side, we're going to get ourselves the Sejuani flex pick. Of course, this is something that Bifrost has played multiple times, and mainly been Faith. And because he won the last game, he's now Faith, not XD. You know, we're going to just make sure we separate those parts out of the name. If he loses, we'll change the name. But he doesn't have himself a Sejuani, so that, of course, the Bifrost team have been playing an awful lot through this tournament so far. And it allows Riddle to kind of jank that counter pick, right? You can hold that in jungle, hold it in top, and you can have that ability to flex it around so Bifrost don't necessarily know the matchup they're going into.
Another interesting situation is the Sylas is yet again open, and for instance, you already get the Sejuani ultimate to steal away. That would be interesting for Fury. I think he's waiting for at least the third pick before they go into the second phase of bans, but he's also open again.
So I think a lot of this, just to go back to Sejuani real quick, something interesting, which people might not know, is Jaxplank doesn't play Sedge, right? So this is certainly a jungle Sejuani, right? And what that means is it has a lot of value in denial, because Shikari really likes Sejuani, as well as Faith XD. He likes his early proactivity jungles. Stefan isn't really an early proactive jungle, so this Sejuani pick is kind of like flipping the switch a little, which I like. I take it all back. Jaxplank plays Sejuani, and we're going to get Velvet jungle.
Funny how I mention these things, and sometimes they come true. The thing is, I'm sort of like, it's just one tournament. I'm sure they've been playing all this other stuff. And now, Riddle have something that not only do they have the Seraphine again, send that towards bot side, you actually have something you can play towards on top side.
Yeah.
Melee synergy with a huge amount of auto attacks coming out from the melee Belveth. Remember when you pop that E, that's like 10 attacks, like very, very quick succession. It's instant Sejuani E being popped at that point. This is a much better shift away from what happened in that last game. Still going to have some similar problems though. Huge prior bot lane, Varus Karma, you do not outpush that. And it's not like that Fiora is going to have any worse time on the top side either, so...
I'm expecting this Seraphine to not be on the hands of Kevu again. I think Nash or even Faison in the mid lane. I'm expecting that one at least. But it's interesting to see that pick. And interesting to see that Sylas was not prioritized and the Fiora was the one getting priority.
I think you're just going to, for the side of Bifrost, you're just going to default to banning more melees, right? I like the Yone target ban to Faison. Think he plays more stuff like Aurelia. Yasuo is something he plays as well. And Echo. So it seems like those are a pool. And you really want to ban out the Sejuani because of the synergy with the passive. The melees for the Sejuani.
Yeah, and that's why, again, we see an awful lot of stuff like Sejuani. And of course, when you've got the Sejuani on top side, it's less about like the gank pressure at that point. But any sort of melee synergy really, really helps you with that. Especially when you have a Seraphine to lock people in place to enable the extra lockdown. That is such a meat grinder to get involved into.
Yeah.
So Riddle, already, we're speaking a little bit more positive about what they've got here. It's not just teamfight impact, it's actually some ability to play through the early game as well with some of the combos that they have. So looking over at Bifrost, and you think, okay, right, if it's not going to be about that team fight, remember last game wasn't necessarily about the straight up team fights, they still have strong side lane option with that Fiora. Huge early game prior on that bot side, which we've already mentioned. And now you've still got yourself the ability to pick something which can have a little bit more playmaking opportunity in that mid lane too. Now, you've lost two of your high mobility champions there, which are very much comfort for Fury. He has been a comfort player. I wonder if we're seeing an angle for something like a LeBlanc as his remaining comfort pick. It's not the best, but it's still playable, and Fury can just go back to one comfort pick.
For the side of Riddle, I'm looking for a strong level 6 or just early lane dominance, right? In the mid lane, specifically, because you do have that really, the importance of Rift Herald when you have a Belveth just skyrockets, right? So having a strong level 6, 8-minute spike is really, really important. So I'm thinking maybe something like Victor, but now you've drafted Kai'Sa, so you want something that can follow up on that all in, which is why you kind of take away that Yasuo pick. So it's really curious where he'll go. Maybe he defaults to Echo here. I think that'd be really interesting, because that is his comfort.
Yeah. I'm a little bit weirded out by this now, because you still have the Seraphine like flex potentially into support, potentially keep it in mid lane, whatever. But like Seraphine is not awesome without gold income, so I'm not as much of a fan of Seraphine support unless you have something like a Senna, which then kind of your Seraphine's to carry anyway.
Yeah.
It is going mid lanes. You have more of that ability to put more resources into your Seraphine, and of course around that level 6, around that Herald, you can have a very powerful power spike and just run straight from mid lane in towards that Herald. But Kai'Sa Rakan is going to struggle versus the Varus Karma.
Yeah.
Like, there are some windows to burst them out, but like, if you ever get hit by that Mantra Q, you feel pretty bad about things. Does, however, open up the Seraphine counter pick, and Seraphine is an eminently counterable champion in that mid lane, and that's pretty rough, actually. Swain is going to eat you for breakfast if you hit any.
That's a very short-range composition into Swain.
Yes.
So I'm really concerned for Riddle. Honestly, their setup on the Herald last game was not ideal in my eyes. I think they could have set up Herald. They had like a 40 CS lead or something top lane. And now this composition to me screams, we win Herald or we lose, right? You're going to bring up Nash hopefully too. And yeah, I just don't see it.
But the fun thing about that is, so I popped into some coaches' discords earlier in the month because I was like, actually, when we're seeing Bel'Veth back, it is about Herald fights. Who are the strongest Herald champions in the game? And the name which consistently came up is Swain. Actually, that champion just down there. I'm like, they popped that Demonic Ascension early into the game. You don't burst out the Swain while that's in the first couple of seconds result, which means you're going to get a huge amount of value from that sustain. If Riddle are going towards Herald, it's going to be an absolute no man's land. Watch that Herald, watch what comes out from that. That'll be a big turning point.
What I'm getting from you both is, yet again, Bifrost should be the team to win this second game as well, putting this in match point.
Early lane prio and bot lanes, outscale and top, Herald answer. Bifrost have it all here.
And Fury has a dream scenario for Swain, I think.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one for Riddle. They have to win this one, or they're going to be put against the wall by Bifrost. Two Division 1 teams, only one dream, and only one team can move forward on the Aurora Open. So let's move forward to the casters, which is Duckling and M-Test.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this caster desk. The two Norwegian powerhouses certainly battled back and forth in game one, ending up with a backdoor from Shikari to secure that one game lead for Bifrost. A interesting draft here from both sides, I would say. I'm noticing the Bel'Veth in particular, the things like the Swain as well. And how do you feel, just about the second game?
I mean, I feel like I kind of have to agree with our analyst desk here. I feel like it's a bit of a draft cap for Bifrost. I think they got exactly what they wanted. I mean, the Stylus was open, which was something I was really surprised upon. But then Fury doesn't even pick it. They just go for the Aurora to make sure that Shikari can get a carry on into this Sejuani. And now with Stylus being gone, I mean, Fury, this Swain angle on him is so insane. Another thing that I kind of want to mention is that Bifrost, I mean Riddle, rather they take the Seraphine to be able to kind of flex it towards both AD carry and mid, right? But then they decide to put Seraphine into mid, which is completely fine for Swain, but they also counterpick pretty much themselves. I mean, Kai'Sa Rakan, one of the safest lanes to play, but you are playing against so much poke in that Varus and the Karma. I feel like Riddle, while they have, for sure, once again, they have potential to win so many team fights, right? My question is, how are they gonna be able to get there? Stefan now on this power farming jungler that I love to see him on. He can really take over games, but Riddle, they really need to find some angles in this early game, because if they don't, I feel like Bifrost are just gonna win out on side.
So I'm excited to see how this game plays out. And one of the things that I am most positive about in Bifrost draft is the repeat of both Faith on the Jarvan and Shikari on the Fiora. We saw how great Shikari was at reading the map once he got out of laning phase, knowing when he could look for pushes, take a half a turret, take a full turret maybe, and his flanks were pretty good as well. And Faith, he was the real director of the small bit of early game action that he was the one setting up the ganks, getting the assist. So he had a really great game. I noticed the Elise didn't get banned, but maybe he would go that route, but I am completely happy to see him on a pick that he just smurfed on in game number 1.
Yeah, I feel like Faith has really been playing well this tournament on these engaging champions. I mean, he's making it so much easier for his team. He's finding these engages when he's playing the Jarvan, the Sejuani, right? And I mean, yeah, that's pretty much the two champions he has been playing. So it's it takes a lot of way of pressure from people like QuickTime, for example. This guy loves to play the range supports. Now he's on the Karma, and the fact that Faith actually plays so much of these engaged champions, despite his solo queue record saying otherwise. I mean, I think QuickTimer, knowing him, I used to play with this guy in a team, he just loves to play these kinds of the Karma, stuff like the Pike, you know, a lot of range support, like the Syra, for example. And having Faith in his team, being able to say every game that he's gonna play Engage, I think QuickTimer just loves this.
And can you elaborate more so on this bot lane matchup as well? Because very different from what we saw the first time around, for example, with the Rel and Seraphine from the side of Riddle, and then what we have now.
Yeah, I think for sure, right, Riddle are saying once again pretty much that they're not gonna win lane, they're just gonna pick the scale, and the Nash is gonna be able to hopefully find engages. It's not as easy on their account, you really need someone else to engage pretty much first. If you have the Jax plank there for that, right? But Riddle, while the bot lane is looking really different this game, they are still playing the same type of style. They're just saying that Bifrost, we're gonna allow you to win the lane, you're gonna have the pressure most of the time, but we're gonna try to scale into the team fight. And while I respect this from Riddle, I feel like Bifrost just has so many much more openings to play from. I mean, Faith, he can once again pretty much go to any lane he has set up in and play through that.
Zooming out just a bit, I think it's important to yet again remind how big this matchup is back in the Norwegian scene. When these two teams met up, it was always the best of the Norwegian National League and the best of the NLC Norwegian representation that Riddle did do back in these days. Now though, obviously both NLC Div 1 orgs, and when Riddle really dominated Bifrost, that was in 2020, 2021. But in 2022, it's been all Bifrost. We saw it in Game 1, and we might see it here again as Jax playing non-stop flag and drag. That is beautiful from Faith, and it's first blood secured by him.
Yeah, really nice flash there from Faith. Make sure that it's a nice Jax blanks having the Johnny Q that make sure he cannot get away. It's pretty much just repeatable, right? He just allows Hikaru to get a free base in. He gets some couple of gold under his belt, gonna be able to have a really good base this first time around, and having a TP advantage as well. It's just really nice, but Jax Plank is looking to be really annoying on this Johnny, trying to force the wave to make sure that Shikari actually has to invest his TP on its own. Really nice play there from Jax Plank. Might look small, but actually helps him out quite a bit in this laning phase.
It's a bit of hope from him as he will try and continue to scale in this matchup. Taking it back to QuickTime, you talked a bit about him, how he likes to play these ranged supports, and looking at this guy's career overall, he has been on some pretty big teams. He had his first big breakthrough back in the Benelux, where he did also make it to the Amazon European Masters play-ins. Didn't qualify for that. Very rarely does the Benelux do that. It has been about 1,000 days since they've actually made it out of play-ins. So understandable. He played on a team with Hades, who now plays down in the LVP. You might have heard of him. Played EU Masters semi-finals, but he has also been spending time over in the Prime League playing for big esports. So he's one of these Benelux players that have made it past the Benelux League and actually had some success over in some of the more accredited ERLs.
Yeah, and I mean, there was even talks with him, I think prior, like 6 months ago or a year ago, there was even talks of him of, I think it was joining the SK LSC team or something like this. I mean, this guy has been having some high tops, also some really low bottoms. I mean, that's pretty much the player career we all have, right? For sure, not gonna be able to win every single time, but QuickTimer been in this team for quite some time now, and you're seeing him on this roster now having some sort of success for Aurora Open. If he can manage to keep up this, I think it looks really strong, right? I mean, he has been laning really well with Kienol. These guys have been winning lane consistently, and now obviously they're playing the Varus Karma, right? So they are supposed to win lane here, but they're looking really confident.
And actually, funnily enough, when I read about QuickTime, I decided, look, let me reach out to the Benelux casters. Is he just Benelux level good or actually good? And I got an answer from Wong. He is definitely real deal. He's an actually good player, not just good for the Benelux level, as obviously it isn't one of the most competitive non-accredited ERLs, but he has made the cut. He has come out and he has shown that he can play at an incredibly high level. You mentioned they're supposed to win lane here, but you also have to follow through on that, which is expected of you, and they are doing that this game.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? And once again, we see these teams really taking it slow. I mean, man, I'm used to casting Ruddy. Like, this is... I think Ruddy by now at the 7-minute mark, they would have like 20 kills and 20 deaths as well. And now we only see one kill for Bifrost. These games are looking a lot more slower. This is something that you can kind of come to expect when both the one teams are playing as each other, right? They all know the matchups. Maybe they are not looking to like flip anything. They're just looking to play their comp out straight up. And last game, we saw Bifrost having their first Drake by now, but it doesn't look like any of the teams is going to be able to pick up that soon. I'm going to expect something happen to at his first hand. I mean, we can only imagine that, right?
That's really that point that we are looking for. Maybe seeing if Nash is looking for something here, just holding the wave. Very big one, so doesn't want to look for the engage. But taking it back to your Roddy point. Yeah, they might play the action, but I mean, they did get knocked out by the best Danish team to ever exist in Astralis Talent. So, understandably, they met their Danish kings and had to fall gracefully in the round of 16. I mean, they did put up a good fight, and I'm going to be honest, I was scared. So, credit to Don Jake for building such a good team. I was waiting for a couple games. I think that is fair to say as Jack Bank. Still in a lot of trouble this top lane. He has been forced out of quite a bit of CS. Getting first blood obviously not helping, and with Faith up in the top lane, could become even worse if it's not just this Herald for Bifrost.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, Bifrost, they are not like sad about the fact that this game is slow, right? It's not like they scale bad. Shikari's gonna be a monster on this Fiora, but now both teams moving up to that Herald.
Yeah, for the side of Riddle, they're looking for the mid lane, but Bifrost are looking for the top lane. The damage, though, not quite there yet. Finally, though, the Grand Challenge will be popped, and Jack Plank will fall. So the call from Riddle has been to start this Herald, as two ultimates have now been used.
This is really risky from Riddle. I mean, the start is 44. Jack Plank doesn't have the TP. Riddle, Bifrost is just gonna collapse here.
No Cataclysm for the side of Faith, so he's forced to flash away. He can actually get the engage, but Kevo jumps forward in the backline. Now Fury entering the fight, healing up with the Demonic Ascension. He's still more than half HP, he could pop off, and he's just dishing out such good consistent damage. In the end though, great steal there from Faith, which secures the Herald. The eye still needs to be picked up by Chikari. It's busy taking down the kills. He finds one. They've now found two, make it 3, and in the end it'll be 4 beautifully served kills into the hands of Bifrost.
Bifrost, they take everything, man. We said it, Riddle. Really risky starter in Jaxplank. While you're here now on the play, it's a little bit too late, buddy. Chikari picks up the Herald, you said it. They've got a crucial steal there, and I feel like Bifrost got everything there. They were ready for it. I mean, they got, first of all, Faith cancelling Jaxplank's Q, and once again, just making sure that they get that kill onto him. And then, I mean, afterwards, they just have to buy time for Keenal. Fury, there on that Swain, being such unkillable as well. Riddle used pretty much all their tools on Faith and Chikari, getting nothing done. And Bifrost once again are in the driving seat.
Let's take a look at just one more time, as in the end the replay did not come through. Maybe you're watching a replay of ganks up in the top lane, because they have for a third time Jaxplank. No flash, obviously still has the ignite, but that's not going to create enough space for you to get out. So yeah, goodbye, night. I think they're having a pork belly for dinner.
Actually, I wouldn't mind that as well. He's invite me too. I'm down. But yeah, I mean, this is
Denmark,
the
we'll do
replay,
it.
right? Yeah, nice one. Jaxplank once again. I mean, he's not in the fight, right? Doesn't have the TP. And Riddle, while it's looking good eventually, if they get the Encore onto Faith and Chikari, maybe they can win the fight. But after Faith and Chikari, they flash away. It's just nothing. The Riddle has nothing left in the tank. And after that, I mean, Furious goes complete banana mode. He just on this Swain, completely unkillable. And then Keenal is here to back his team up. You see Quicktimer flashing in to make sure Chikari gets that shield onto him. Actually saves his Fiora there. Really nice stuff coming in from the Bifrost support. And I mean, Bifrost, they just come and clean up, right? They get absolutely everything. This is the worrying thing that I was kind of thinking in the draft. Riddle, while they have the scaling factors, it's not like they are actually outscaling Bifrost super hard. And they're also losing pretty much all of their lanes. It's really hard for Riddle to get into a state where they can actually fight Bifrost on even terms.
I don't know about you, but I did just realize that Chikari's 3-0-2 and also has the Herald in his own pocket. And they're now looking for another gank in the top side. On the other side, though, Riddle, while we were in the replay, managed to pick up a Cloud Drake. And Stefan is looking for something down here, at the very least making sure his bot lane is safe. Still there, actually. Rotation now come back from Faison, so he won't be there. 3v2 could flash away initially. And that is a great chain of corruptions to deny any further engage. Bifrost surviving in this 2v3.
Yeah, really well played there from Kielan. Nice flash, nice chains of corruption, as you were mentioning, stopping Nash in his tracks. And Bifrost, I mean, they're just playing super well, especially around this bot lane. They know that they're having a lot of pressure they can contest, but now they're going in for it more, but Faith is here!
Fine. The ultimate not there, the flash neither, so they find the kill of Stefan. Not done quite yet. They want more Nash. It's quite low though, so they don't want to engage too far here, and they stop the play.
And really gets rewarded for staying on the map, really, but they're going for more. They just want to make sure that they cannot really allow to freeze this wave, but Bifrost, I mean, this Jarvan is so tanky at this stage, already finished his first item, and he's just gonna stand there and watch as Riddle has to recall on this, and Keenal, while dying, while losing his summoners, is at least gonna be able to pick up this wave.
Bifrost still in a good situation. That is something for Riddle, and I think it's important to highlight that. Getting the Drake is nice, now getting a kill as well, especially because it's on towards Stefan, who's someone who can be really good when he's on these carry champion. Bel'Veth, a champion as well, that just likes to stack up the attack speed, and he might be looking for more stacks here, as a gank in the top side definitely seems like an option. Regardless though, Chikari reads the play nicely, gets out in time.
Yeah, but I'm looking right now, Chikari has to pop. You have to pop the Herald, buddy. It's gonna time out soon. I imagine he has to TP here instantly and try to force it, but Bifrost, they're all on the bot right now. They can't really defend this Herald play that's gonna come up from Chikari. Actually, is this gonna forget to just put it? No. He puts it, okay.
He puts it, okay, so he gets that, and they will also get a kill down in the bot lane. Faith, low, but not dead. Faith will always be there, I guess you could say, as they will take some plates as well as a reward.
And once again, Bifrost are in a position where they're kinda forcing Riddle to make a decision happen, but no matter what they do, they're gonna lose out. That Kevo dies, they're just gonna get 2 plates on the bot side. Chikari has the Herald as well on this top side, and Riddle, you have to answer something. What are you gonna do? They're right now in the bot side river, but they cannot really find anything. Bifrost just playing this really cleanly, knowing the position of every single member of Riddle, and Chikari is gonna get so much gold under his play with his Herald.
Why? That is already 3 plates secured. He might even look to be cheeky and get a 4th. That is so much gold. 2,000 ahead, highlighted here by our observer. That is a massive lead. We saw what Shikari could do in a more even state up against the Renekton in the late game. He will reach this late game point so much quicker, and that base definitely needs to be careful.
Yeah, you have to feel like already that Shikari and Faith, they've only been playing together for basically this tournament, right? But I feel like they already having so much synergy. I mean, Faith, he found so many opportunities this game, last game as well, around Shikari, even though he was playing mostly around Fury in that time. This game around, Fury has just been chilling, and this time around, Shikari is the main protagonist for this game. He's so strong on this Fiora. Already has the Divine Sunderer towards Jax Blank's Frozen Heart. I mean, Sejan is not looking like a strong pig right now.
I really can't believe why Faith hasn't been playing competitive for the past few years. Where has this guy been? What has he been doing? He played 1 or maybe 2 splits down in Turkey Academy in 2019. That was pre-COVID, if we have to think back about how much time has passed since 2019. And now he just pops up here in the Aurora Open. He's having a monstrous performance in both of these games for Bifrost.
Yeah, and I think it's a really great incentive as well. Like he's once again, his OPGD doesn't say that he's playing mostly like the engaged champions. He's playing all the scaries, but in the when he's been playing with Bifrost this tournament, he's only been playing the engagers such as the Jarvan, the Sejuani, and I wonder if he's gonna get caught up here. But I think he's waiting for his team. Oh, he's just dead.
Yeah, he is simply just dead. You said it. He's gone. That means the help will go over to the side of Riddle. And that is yet again something back. It's good. Really important now that they're able to read the play, get the opportunity. And that is a massive passive unleashed form. The Void Monster certainly released. That is the one that spawns the minion thingies as well. It's one that can definitely push hard as Kennel would look to get something back in the bot lane. But this mid lane turret is gone.
Yeah, I mean, they already see Fury being on that bot side. I feel like they can just pop the river and run them down. But Kennel in the 1v1 on the bot side, what's happening?
What is happening down there? They're diving him now as Quicktimer makes his way down. Turret shot does so much damage, and that goes to mid lane tier 1. We'll get a second charge as well. As you're saying, Nash, Stefan is on his way down here as they will not push underneath the turrets. Massive plays coming out from Riddle, bringing themselves back into the game, as they can also take this Hextech Drake. That's 2 Drakes on their side. They are getting these neutral objectives.
Yeah, and Riddle, they're showing signs of life here. I mean, I said that it's gonna be really, really hard for them to get in a stage where they can actually teamfight. But now Stefan, he has 2 kills, got that Blade of the Ruin King finish already. He's 30 CS up on Faith, and he's looking really strong. Maybe could be the carry for Riddle. I mean, Riddle, once again, they want to teamfight, right? They want to force Bifrost to be in a scenario where they have to 5v5. And what is the best kind of recipe for that? To have 2 early Drakes. Now they're already gonna be forcing Bifrost to contest this 3rd and the 4th Drake. And this could be the comeback angle for Riddle.
The series certainly lives on. It has been a hard year for Riddle going up against Bifrost. Now being 4-1 if you do consider this first game that Bifrost did win. So Bifrost has won 4, Riddle has only beat them once. And back in the day, it was Riddle who, whenever they played against Bifrost, they thought, oh yeah, this is gonna be a 3-win. They were 6-1 against Bifrost before Bifrost made their way into the NLC here in 2022. So Bifrost rewriting their wrongs and trying to cement themselves as the biggest organization in Norway.
Yeah, and it's a big challenge, right? I mean, going up in a best of 5 now against each other, it's for sure has some sort of rivalry going on there. Both teams obviously want to come out on top, and both looking like a strong contender actually for the title. I mean, both teams been playing really well, obviously undefeated so far in the season, but now Bifrost are the only ones being 1-0 up, and now we are gonna see actually some sort of swap coming. Shikari going onto that bot side into FaZe and Seraphine. I don't think that's a matchup that Seraphine wants to be.
A bit of damage on Nash. Trying to trade here on Keva as well so they can get some damage on this mid lane tier 1 themselves. Game has been paused. Interesting to think about what that could have been. Didn't look to be any bug or any mistake in the game at the very least. Regardless, game 1, very slow. Early game, this one has been slow, but it hasn't been as slow as game 1 as we've seen more action, especially around these neutral objectives.
Yeah, I really like the fact that Riddle, they're not giving up, right? I mean, you saw the pick they got on the Faith secured that herald, got themselves that tier 1 mid tower, really important in games like this. And if they can keep this up, kind of stop the bleeding. I mean, I still think Bifrost, they have a way bigger edge in draft. I mean, you see Shikari already so strong on this Fiora. He is gonna become even stronger. But Riddle, with his 2 Drakes, as we've been mentioning, the gold league is not enough for them to just be completely counted outright in terms of the team fights. They can make it count when it matters the most. And Stefan, maybe, just maybe, he's gonna be able to finish at Sunfire before that next Drake is gonna spawn.
Talking about that next Drake, there will still be a couple minutes on that. So I think you're right in highlighting the items. Look at the gold as well. 8,500 compared to just 6,000 from Jax playing. So Shikari has a massive lead here. And it's about how they best use it, because that is pretty much the only man sitting with the lead. If you look at other players on the team, 1.5 item for Phasian, 1.5 item for Fury. If you look at the jungle, 1 item just for Faith, while it's actually Stefan who has almost 2 items completed. And down in the bot lane, it's also just 1 item, boots, and just a little bit extra here and there.
Yeah, I mean, we have to imagine, right, that probably Ken is gonna be able to finish his rage before that second Drake as well, and he's gonna be really strong on this Vara if he can get that front to fight back going. But same goes for Riddle, right? Even though Jaxplank is so far behind on this Sejanna pick in isolation, he can still have a great impact in this fight with that ultimate. If he just gets Stefan 1 reset to make sure that he can actually play the fight, then Stefan is gonna be able to carry the team fight for Riddle, and Bifrost really have to watch out for that.
We're just waiting for the Drake for now. There is obviously no more heralds come up. It will be the Baron in 40 seconds. And that's just yet another objective that Riddle could look to play around. But when we're talking so much about these team fights, Test, when I look at it, the team fights from Bifrost aren't as bad. It's mainly actually the difference in top lane, where Jaxplank has way more to offer in a team fight than Shikari.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? And on one hand, it's not like Fiora is just gonna be used in fights, right? Shikari has 2 items already. If he can find a flank or just pretty much play the front to back comp as well, right? He can dodge a lot of great tools that Riddle has. But for sure, as you were mentioning, right? Even though Sejanna is so far behind this game in terms of gold, she can still have so much more agency in those team fights. And now, with this next pick coming up on the horizon, Kenan has already his rage split. Kevo has been put under a lot of pressure with his Karma Varus bot lane and Nash being able to roam around the map so much, helping out Stefan. It's really looking to pay dividends now for Kenan as he picked up his second item. Oh, they're not gonna care actually, they're gonna go the Nasher.
They're not gonna care. That's actually super interesting. I thought they would go for the Drake, but maybe let's see what Shikari can get. CP available for both top laners, so they could join a potential fight. Curious switch to the heal, so he needs to be here early on. Big cooldown force. Does Bifrost look to turn towards the Baron actually?
And I really like this. They're just putting themselves on the gas pedal, right? They're not even allowing Riddle to play to their own strength, right? To play in that bot side river. They had so much vision already. Bifrost completely controlling that top side river, and they're now just waiting in the bush trying to get a pick going, and they're going for it.
The move connects onto Stefan, and he's locked up. That Royal Maelstrom will do something as the re-engage is massive, but they haven't found any kills. Fury in the front line healing up, and the engage from Jaxplank on the tank is onto Kennel, but they don't have the damage. Faith still alive somehow as Kevo, now the one who's being targeted down. Shikari forced to flash out. Everyone is low, but very few people are falling. It is 1 kill down in favor of Bifrost.
So good there initially from Riddle. I mean, Stefan, he was caught, but he's so tanky on this Velvet face, and hits a great encore to make sure that Riddle can stay alive. But when Stefan is out of the fight, Riddle doesn't really have the damage. But they're not done. They're looking for more on the side of Bifrost.
Engage on quick time, but he's not dead. He's out. Safety, and now it's Shikari who TP's in rather actually, and finds one. Will look for 2 Faith. Obviously there to help his top laner like he's been doing all game. And this is Bifrost getting the Drake.
And Shikari, I mean, Bifrost will buy enough time for Shikari to TP in, and Riddle, they thought they were maybe finding Kenal on that flank, but it's not nearly enough. And I mean, Riddle already blew all of their tools, so when Shikari TPs in with full HP, he can just clean up the fight. And Bifrost, they stopped that snowballing factor in those Drakes. I really like this approach from Bifrost, not caring about the dragon, playing towards their strengths where they have the vision on the top side. And this is where the fight starts going, right? Stefan taking so much damage, but had so many tools to stay alive. And Phasian hits a great encore, buys so much time for his team, but as you can see once again, when Stefan is out of the fight, Riddle doesn't nearly have enough damage to clean up Bifrost.
Let's watch it again. So Shikari goes in, gets good damage on Kevo, then goes back to recall, and you mentioned TP in, and all the big cooldowns have been blown here. Every single ultimate has been used. So you mentioned it, he TPs in, just takes the kill freely, because who can really stop him? He has so much damage, and there's just simply not enough on Riddle at this point without the ultimate to take him down. So he gets the kill, they get the Drake, so they've bought 5 more minutes of time, and look, 4-0-4, going towards that Hullbreaker again. It's gonna be hard to imagine them stopping Shikari this game.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing, right? As you were mentioning, the Riddle, they kind of blew all their tools, right? So when Shikari tipped in, he can do whatever he wanted. And this is the team comp that Riddle dropped for themselves. They have so many tools to work with, but they need those all cooldowns to be up. While Bifrost, even though they have pretty much all ultimates on cooldown, they can still play the team fights. I mean, you have the Varus just out-attacking Karma, gonna have that mantra up pretty much whenever. And Shikari and Fury, they can really dish out a lot of damage despite not having the ultimates up. And Riddle, they really need to make sure that if they get a fight going, they need to one-shot someone in the beginning of the fight, or they are gonna struggle really a lot to win the fight.
The lead was built bigger by that fight from Bifrost. It grew a substantial amount, I think it's fair to say, up towards the 4K mark now, 4.5, depending on how much you wanna count into the decibels. Or decimals, I do believe it is, actually. Language is so hard sometimes, as 2 items have now been hit from Bifrost, and that means they want to hit the fight button one more time. Stefan locked up, the Royal Maelstrom denies some damage, but he can't get out, because as soon as that Maelstrom ends, a massive pickup will come through for Bifrost. They're looking towards the Baron, TP and them facing.
And once again, Faye finds an angle for his team. He goes on to that tier 1 tower. I thought that was gonna be really risky, actually. I mean, we knew that Riddle was not nowhere close to be able to defend Stefan there, but Bifrost, I guess they knew the same. They had some sort of map hack or something, and Faye finds an angle once again for his team. Probably not gonna result in a Baron, but you see Shikari already pressuring that tier 2, and Jaxprank is forced to look for a fight here in the mid lane.
Tries to find it, but the Glacial Prison will not find its prisoner today as it goes wide. Shikari still just pushing on the side, and like we saw him do the game before, he's able to drag them around the map. They're playing with their food. It feels like Bifrost in control, and as long as they don't get engaged upon, they're just able to move Riddle as they please around the map.
Yeah, and this is what we've been talking about, right? Sure, Riddle has so many good scaling opportunities in their team, but it's not like Bifrost, they just get completely outscaled, right? I mean, Shikari now with the Hullbreaker, he can look to teamfight because the fact that he's so far ahead on this Fiora pick, but he can also just go on the side to force Riddle to make bad decisions. This is what we've been seeing, right? You saw when Bifrost got that early kill onto Kevo in the laning phase and Shikari had the Herald onto his own, felt like Riddle was a bit lost on the map. They didn't really knew what to do. And while Riddle has been finding some openings after that, it's still Bifrost very much in the driving seat, and Riddle, they need to make something happen. It has to be around this mid lane. Try to make a force going. Try to hit quick timer with the Sejuani ultimate. Something like this has to be their opening.
It's been about 5 minutes since the last fight. I suppose we're starting to see these massive cooldowns come off cooldown again. You can see Shikari and Faith getting their flashback in just 30 seconds maybe, while the bot lane for Bifrost has it back already. Fury doesn't have the flashback, so he swapped it to a barrier instead, getting that extra bit of defensive utility up. And Shikari now with the Hullbreaker on his lonesome in the top side should be able to take the turret. He doesn't care about Jaxplank because Jaxplank not on that Renekton and doesn't deal any damage.
And this is the dividends you get paid, right? But we don't have time to talk about that as they're going on to face it.
Oh, there's no way Bifrost are going for this, but somehow they are. They're found too. So they're the one pushing on the top side, but they're also the one owning this mid lane. They really just own the Rift.
And Shikari doesn't care, man. It goes to the dive onto Jaxplank. Jaxplank has nothing, man.
It is absolutely nutty how good Bifrost are at League of Legends. I think that is fair to say with this massive play. That gold lead is ballooning and it is growing so fast here. They are opening up the base. They are getting the kills. Bifrost turning up the heat.
Yeah, and this is what we've been talking about, right? Bifrost forcing Riddle to make bad decisions. There they go for the fight in the 4v4 and they just lose out straight up. Sure, Kevo gets a 1k shutdown onto Kenan, but it's not enough. I mean, Shikari is taking the inhibitor in your face. He just dove Jaxplank for 100 to 0. This is Sejuani that is supposed to be the tank of your team. Shikari makes him look like butter.
Does not care about your HP buy. He will take you down regardless, and I was simply in disbelief when Bifrost also went for the fight mid lane. I thought at the very least they would play it safe, but no. They knew they were stronger. They took the fight. They won it as well. And that just allowed them to get not just the inhibitor on the top side, but 2 mid lane turrets as well. Now they have priority around this Drake.
Oh, Shikari is gonna not care, man. It's gonna TP onto
Oh,
the
he's
top
gonna
side.
do it
The
again.
similar situation that we saw the last game. It's gonna go for it. Riddle, they are forced to make once again, make the decisions happening. They're gonna base and just give up this Drake for free. The question is, can they get Shikari? He has a 1k shotgun under his belt. Can he get out though?
He's so strong. He forced 5 men to go up there because they weren't sure they could kill him otherwise. So they give this Drake up for absolutely free. And Shikari knows when to back out. He does so. He hasn't died this game. He hasn't been caught out. And he's winning this game all by himself.
Curse incoming.
I'm not gonna cast a curse, and this guy is too good. I am so impressed because Bifrost haven't been playing bad. Look at that team. They're playing well as well. But Shikari has so much power. All on his own that he can simply move 5 members around the map as he pleases. And now he wants a fight, and he's surely gonna win it as well, right? In the front line, he is healing up with that grand challenge. 1 kill back onto the side of Riddle. But what will it matter? Absolutely nothing. That's your answer, because Bifrost will run you down. Kevo, not long for this, will never move, and he won't move more this game, because this is game over, and Bifrost on match point.
Once again, Faye finds the engage for his team. I wonder if it's gonna be enough, Ducklin. The wave is really far outside of the base. Maybe Bifrost is just gonna flip it. It looks like they're just waiting for the wave. They're having a bit of a walking parade there in the Riddle base, but Faison up in 10 seconds doesn't have the Encore onto his arsenal. But that wave is really unfortunate. I don't think Bifrost's gonna have time to end it, but they're gonna go for it.
They're gonna give it a shot. Still 10 seconds on Stefan, 15 on Kevo, 10 on Jax playing. So they have the time to at the very least take down the turrets. If they hit only Nexus, I think they can do it, but they need to be wary of the time. Stefan is up. They're still pushing for backing off, as I spoke a bit too soon. Didn't realize the wave was that far away.
Yeah, that wave was really unfortunate actually. If that wave was 5 seconds closer, they would have ended for sure. But once again, I mean, Bifrost, they're taking the inhibitor in their face. They are full with fire right now, but they don't care. They are pushing real aggressively.
He has no mana, so he can't really queue. In the demonic ascension, kill, shutdown. Going over to Riddle, they're finding 2. Bifrost just that bit too confident. The Baron is on the map as well, so this will be everything for Riddle as they somehow find a way back in. I wrote them off. I thought it was done.
Bifrost playing really cocky. They're playing with their food, as we've been mentioning time and time again this game. And Shikari stepping a bit too aggressively with the riposte there. And all eyes are on Faith right now as this Nash is being started up by Riddle.
You gotta have faith. I think that's fair to say if you're a Bifrost fan now, because you don't want to throw this game. But Jax playing, just going into the meat crater that is Kennel, and still Faith has a way in. They know how much HP it on. Jax playing is so low. TP now, come in. Yeah, you're taking it. It's a flip. You gotta have faith that he steals the burn and make sure Bifrost will keep their lead.
Oh my god, so much action coming out there from Riddle. They get so many shutdowns onto Bifrost, but them not getting that Nasher has to, what you feel like has to be the nail in the coffin for them. Faith, as you mentioned, comes in clutch for his team. He's the man. He finds the engages, he finds the Nasher steal as well, and keeps Bifrost for sure in the driving seat this game.
That is so massive there for the game, because had Bifrost gotten the Baron, they would have been able to start pushing out the map, taking some turrets, shrinking their goal lead, and making this game somewhat even. But that has been denied. They now only, I say it is still good for Riddle that they got these shutdowns, but it's not going to matter nearly as much as getting that Baron would have mattered.
Yeah, I mean, as you were mentioning, right? If you get your hands onto the Nasher, you have 2 inhibitors that you can farm pretty much for free. Bifrost can't really make use of any of that, but now when they have that Nasher, sure, Faith's not gonna have it, Shikari's not gonna have it, but the fact that Riddle doesn't have it, it's just quite enough. I think Shikari, he's a bit too far up here. Maybe he's gonna get caught once again by Riddle. That's
happening here, Shikari. You played it so safe before, but now 2 times a bit too overeager with the Baron buff as well. And that is a 50-second death timer. Drake should be spawning within a minute, maybe 1.5 minutes time, so will be up for that rather. Still Bifrost pushing in. 5v4, they need to be careful. Don't overextend again, Bifrost.
Yeah, if they drop the baller once again and gets caught, right, you have to imagine that the combat potential for Riddle is huge, right? But even if Riddle just decides to drop this Drake that is gonna come up from Bifrost, it's still only soul point for them. Oh, Faith gets cancelled!
He gets cancelled somehow, I don't know why or how, but he does, and he's gonna die as well.
No way.
Finding the pin. Bifrost, what is happening here? You had the biggest lead I had seen in a while. You were so confident in taking the team fights, but now the game is going back into a way where Riddle can somehow win it. This Baron isn't really gaining Bifrost anything.
And it's not just getting these kills, right? Getting the gold under your belt. It's getting so much XP on your laners. But as you were saying, Shikari, he does it the same again. Drake is nearly about to spawn. Shikari's TP is up to the top side, once again forcing Riddle to make the decisions.
3 bags will come through. Shikari needs to be careful to not die here as well. But the important thing about that is so much pressure now goes over to Bifrost around this Drake. Because look, they can just walk in, take the red buff, make sure that when this Drake spawns, they will be the ones starting it up.
Yeah, and you have to imagine, right, that they have Riddle has to keep 2 people on this top side to make sure Shikari can't push into their base. They're just gonna give up the Drake for free. Shikari, can he get out? Oh, they cannot even get him.
He just launches away.
Yeah, he just lunges away on that Fiora. I mean, really well played from Shikari, even though his team is kind of collapsing a bit and he got caught as well. He's not losing his mental completely. He still makes good decisions, forcing that Drake soul point coming out from Bifrost. And even though we see for sure some signs of hope, right, in Riddle, they are making that comeback happen. They were able to farm the top inhibitor. The mid lane is gonna spawn as well soon enough. And they are not nearly out of this game. I mean, we counted them out, actually. We thought Bifrost was just gonna end the game. But now, the team fight, I mean, everything can still happen, right?
It's important to highlight as well how much dragons actually can change a game. Because after the buff to all dragon buffs, it is now 6% or maybe even more. I think it's 8 actually. 8% resistances in both armor and magic resist. 9 rather actually. I'm wrong again. But that is 9 times 3. That is 27% extra resistances. That is a lot of extra value. But Colonel still caught out very tanky with the extra resistances. So he's able to somehow get out of that one. But someone who's not is going into the GA. That is the side of Fury falling. Faith as well. This fight is actually going over to Riddle. Where is Shikari? He's going for the inhibitor. Fury falls and they can't buy enough time. Recall's coming through. You can't end the game in 8 seconds. But he can get the inhibitor. Might even look for 2, but no, Jackplank cutting off the escape. Stefan looking for more here, actually. Riddle are split. Only 2 men back in the base. That's Faison and Jackplank who have to take care of business. They find one in the mid lane, but Shikari could still push on here and still look for something. Riddle, 25 seconds on Kendall. They can't look for the game, but they can take some turrets.
So much chaos here, but Shikari once again taking the team on his back when they are kind of trolling a bit. I mean, sure, you have to give credit to Riddle, right? They are getting fine in these engagements, but now Shikari is getting collapsed. He's gonna fight it, but it's not gonna be enough. He's gonna get caught.
And he has the Hullbreaker buff, but it's not gonna be enough. In a 1v4, he will fall and Stefan's unstoppable. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I cast the curse to this so hard. Yeah, I thought the game was over. I mentioned it that way. He needed to be 5 seconds closer to the turret, and I would have been right. But Bifrost are making these uncharacteristic mistakes. We complimented how well Bifrost were playing at not getting caught out, knowing exactly when they have the advantage. But now, they're stepping a bit too far forward. They're making these wrong mistakes. These calls aren't going as great as they did before. And Riddle, they are punishing.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, we talked about it, the fact that Riddle, they have so many tools to find the picks. But as you were saying, Bifrost in the early game, in the mid game, respected so well whenever Riddle had the opportunity to go for it. But now Bifrost, they are not. They're slowing down. Oh, Kennel's just there.
Oh, Jackplank, you absolute monster. That is so cleanly executed. He finds Kennel out of nowhere. I thought he was getting caught, but I was wrong. Kennel evaporates Jackplank, you fucking monster. Shikari up in 10, but there's no faith. They don't have faith. They don't have really a front line. They don't have an AD carry. They don't have a demonic ascension. Fury, how can you save this game? This would have been Bifrost win 5 minutes ago, but Shikari will not give up yet. But he simply falls into the Royal Maelstrom and gets evaporated off the rift. And Bifrost are being cleaned up. Riddle have found it. The minion wave coming in soon, so they can take the turrets. Still 10 seconds on Kennel. Oh, Fury needs to buy more time. Goes golden, buys a couple seconds, but I do believe this should be it. Kennel up in 3. I don't think he can get out in time. He has to try though, but Riddle can end the game here. How do they do it? But they tie it up 1-1, and Norwegians never disappoint in a best of 5.
No way Riddle gets that comeback going, right? I mean, we counted them out. There were 2 inhibitors down. Shikari was just pressuring constantly on that top side. But somehow Riddle finds their faith on their own. And they managed to make it an even series. Let's go, man.
I don't believe it. I thought they had a chance when they went on towards the Baron, but when Faith stole it, I thought that was it. I thought it would be the final nail in the coffin, but Riddle fighting back. I cannot believe it. These Norwegian orcs, man, they are pushing each other to the limit. And I think it's fair to say whoever wins this best of 5, the best Norwegian orc out there in the NLC ecosystem. So a lot on the line for both teams. Obviously a place in the semi-finals as well of the NLC Aurora Cup. But to talk more about that and this crazy game and series so far, let's send it to Analyst Desk.
I have questions. And I need answers. Because this is not what I was looking at the beginning of the game. A lot of confusion. Let's start with the draft and the way things should be going. Because I look at Riddle and I think they need a lot of time to wake up. They need late game. And they need a lot working on their way. Sejuani versus Fiora is not a fun matchup. Patagon, you were telling me about your past experiences. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay, look, I'm going to be real with you. This game was in the
real.
bag. Okay, this game was absolutely in the bank account, right? As Kadra would say. This was so won. I actually can't fathom how this happened. So just to break down the draft, something like I feel like wasn't talked about enough is if you look at Bifrost's comp, fundamentally, you guys played MMOs or RPGs. When you get to a boss and your raid or whatever doesn't have enough damage to beat them. Okay, what Bifrost comp was a DPS check. They had Fiora healing, Swain healing, Karma shields, right? So when you're behind and you can't kill anyone, they just pop off with all the healing, right? But when you continuously give more and more and more gold, and you give their only source of damage, realistically, the Kai'Sa, more and more gold with that high DPS build, that on-hit build, you actually give them a win condition, right? It's the only way they lose is if they keep giving over gold to the Kai'Sa, and they kept doing it.
Yeah, and if we were talking
yeah.
about the last game from Riddle, where we're talking about actually, they're playing just for this teamfight combo. They've got a Hecarim Seraphine. That's all they're really playing for. It's the only way they win, though. Not winning through side lanes, and if that combo doesn't go well good luck with it. In this game, Bifrost had multiple win conditions again. They had the Hull Breaker, and it was Riddle once again going into this like it's kind of constrained. Well, this isn't going to work out so well. So I think we should go through the first part of the game. And then we can talk about how it flips later. Because for 30 minutes of that game, we were sat here going, bored now, game's over, Hull Breaker's going to end the game. Because where this game realistically started shifting in Bifrost's favor was right at the Herald fight. Because if you don't get ahead of the curve, as Aragorn's saying, you fall behind in that DPS check. So let's go check out that Herald fight. Because actually, that's where a lot of things happen. You have a lot of big ultimates, you got a Belveth. A lot of things come down to that play.
Okay, it's interesting because I was about to skip that one because you guys were skipping that conversation. So I thought maybe we should skip it, but apparently let's take a look at it. But because they do what they needed to do.
Right?
Yeah, because top lane's already dead. You don't have the Sejuani ultimate. Merc treads on the Swain already. And look how much work Swain does.
Yeah, I mean, this fight, I'm not going to lie, feels like a lifetime ago. It actually does. But that really, I want to emphasize how good Faith XD's initial gank onto the Sejuani's was. He managed to find behind the tower gank. And when Sejuani's dead, you don't have that on-hit passive with that Belveth combination. And your entire team fight is so much weaker.
Yeah, so that's where we thought, okay, sorry, Riddle, it's kind of done. You've fallen behind the curve of the game. And also out of that as well, arguably what's even bigger than that is that there's the Fiora that comes away with so many kills. And that is the other win condition, because no one's standing in that lane. You don't realistically want to play towards a 2v1 with the Belveth Sejuani against the Fiora at that point. That means that Riddle's game plan is very constrained. And that's how we kind of saw a lot of the game go after that point, but it really felt as though Bifrost had it in the bag from that point. So for me, I'm not going to say I'm not going to say utterly surprised or whatever. I'm just a little bit disappointed that Bifrost couldn't play through that win condition actually, because that was really in the bag actually.
There's another team fight we were looking at the green room where you said specifically the sentence, "This is as good as it could get in favor of Riddle," and this is the one. You need to tell me why.
Well, a lot of it is because, actually, for the first time in however long, you actually managed to lock up the targets that you want to. You get the front line out of their DPS range. Kevo is doing damage and actually not taking any return, so the Seraphine's free. This really feels like, okay, Riddle, you haven't lost anyone early, your combo's hitting the right people, and your damage is popping off.
Yeah, but it's just at this point, you could see the sustain, right? Like, this is what I want to highlight, the DPS check. All the shields and healing. Even though the fight was really good, it just didn't matter. And then what you're going to see after this, hopefully, is that Shikari just TPs back afterwards, and he 1v4s, because there's just no damage. They're so far ahead, and there's too much healing and shielding, right? So he can just go do this. Albeit he's not getting hit the entire time. But look, there's nothing. They just have to run, right? You have nothing. And this is why I thought at this point the game was over. And realistically, it should have been.
Yeah.
It should have been. But there was another one. We need to buy time for that one because we need to get that replay ready. When everything goes down the drain, and even at the end of that fight, the Baron is robbed from Riddle, and even with that big victory, with that big W, we thought, it's still a Bifrost game. But this is what I want you to tell me about this one, Nightmare.
Well, what happened was that Riddle, they fought inside their base, fought inside a choke point, and they just looked at people out of position with no actual Jarvan there to facilitate the engage. The Vara's not in position to do damage. They thought, well, this is kind of done. And the thing is, if you're not deathballing as Bifrost, this Varus really struggles to stand and fight. The Kai'Sa is much more safe at this point. Unless you have the Jarvan running forwards with them, you don't have a Seraphine ult, you don't have everything. So that's where the fight goes wrong. That's all well and good. But yeah, obviously a bit of a Baron seal happens just after this point. Faith, yeah. For everything that Bifrost did wrong, Smite Key's still active.
Yeah. And you gotta feel like the side of Bifrost felt like the game was over because you saw Shikari just dancing. It was almost like he just used, if the emotes were in League of Legends, he used his slash dance, you know, in front of the base. It was really peculiar. Put himself in a position where he had to pop the parry, and then he had nothing for the chain CC afterwards, right? And that was like the only way they win. So I want to just touch on, that's pretty mentally devastating, right? So hopefully, you know, they acknowledge, you know what, we're the better team. We were winning the entire series up until now.
Oh, no.
We could still do this, you know?
Oh no, I heard something in the back.
Well, I had some complaints for the last game because it was the wrong color, but it's over, Bifrost. I have the high ground. Is that it? Can we go out on that?
I go, that's quick. That's a quick one. So with all these things, and specifically when we get to the late game, and this one, this is actually a good one because you think they can just slow down, and Shikari just says YOLO.
Yeah, because this is what really frustrates me up at this point, because the wave is pretty much dead. You need to wait for like one more skill shot from Swain. You don't have to go out from outside those turrets. And Shikari had teleport as well. I mean, not that you were likely going to teleport away from the base at that point, but either way, Shikari was so far ahead for most of that game. I think the DPS check, which is something that we've returned to for a lot of this, just wasn't really calculated correctly at this base defense.
Yep. It's really frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just because all you have to do is clear one more minion, right? He just need to clear a minion.
It's one more
decide, you know what?
It's literally like 2 seconds. Just wait 2 seconds.
Exactly. Stay under your turrets, make full use of your Nexus turrets, and you just stay under turret waiting for the rest of the respawns. But he goes in and dive bombs, and you gotta wonder, is that frustration, right? Because I would be frustrated, you know, but maybe I'm mentally weaker than Shikari.
But let's see how that mental is going to hold on due to the fact that we brought in the fact that Shikari only died once per game so far. He's doubled now. He's on double deaths, so 100% more deaths than the usual. Let's see what happens on the next one. But before we do that, let's toss it to a break before we jump back to the third game of a series of a best of 5. I'll see you soon.